Record. Hi, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of our listing-related training. So I'm going to share my screen here in a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page as what we're going to cover today. So this is part 2, basically taking an active listing, and we're going to go through a little bit of some MLS things. We may go into some listing parameters and just show you how to do that real quick as well in MLS. But essentially, once your listing is live, what do you do then? Okay, so that's where we're going to kind of take things in the next roughly about an hour at the most. So welcome to those who are live with us, a couple of you, and then the majority will be watching afterwards, at least so they say. So in part 1, we took everything from what you had to do to basically get up to the point of listing the property itself. And now we're going to take you into what happens when you're done. Just as a reminder, there are lots and lots of tools that we have available in the Agent Resources folder. And we're going to go into that here in a second. So you have a lot of, if you go into your Drive, and you'd have to go into drive.google.com, and then you go to Shared with Me, because I'm the owner of the Google Drive, and then you go into Agent Resources. You've got all these different folders with these different tools available to you, including the checklist that I'm going to show you guys here in a second. We've already referenced it in our last training. So with any further hesitation, let's dive right into it. This is the checklist that we were talking about where we left off in part 1. Well, maybe not specifically with this one. But this is the one that I put together for my team, and I just have it publicly available because I just think it's the most comprehensive one you can find. All the things you need to do prior to the appointment, the research, the forms, the things that you should look at, how to prepare for your digital presentation, meeting and interviewing the client, and then the pricing conversations. We covered all that already. Now let's get into the listing checklist part of things. This is where you have been given the go-ahead. You have the listing. It's time for you to now do everything you need to do. And there's some consistencies in what we do. Of course, I see I'm logged out of back office, so we'll put that in motion real quick while we do this. But remember, the biggest thing here is to make sure that we are properly advertising, that we are properly putting your listing out there as best as we can so that we get the primary and the most exposure. But once I get into BoldTrail, I'm going to show you just how to create it and what to do. And it's very simple. We kind of did it last time as well. But anytime you see like broker mint here that I've highlighted, that is back office now. So those terms are now synonymous. Everybody kind of uses a different technique and a different system, or not system, maybe a different checklist in what you do. But I'll be honest with you, probably 9 times out of 10, people just wing it. And when you go off script, when you don't look at your checklist, then you are in a position where you are like kind of on your own, and you're going to forget things, right? So when you wing it, you have a tendency to forget things. So let me just stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to log back into the 2-factor authentication is a pain. I realize that, but everyone has it. It's just the way of the world, unfortunately. So as I'm walking back into back office, let me reshare my screen, and then you'll see what I see. So we're going to do this from start to finish. So again, feel free to pause if you've got a new listing and you use this as your guide. So once you're in back office, and remember, this is kind of your front office end of things. The back office is where you do your transactions. So we want to get to that, okay? We are going to come back to this My Listings tab because there's some things I think you need to at least remember and talk about. But I'm going to click on the Deals tab, and then I'm going to go into back office. We were in here last time. Remember, you're going to create a new transaction, and you're going to do a traditional sale. It's Could be an opportunity, active listing, pending, whatever it may be. I'm just going to put active because we're going to go active with this, relatively soon. And then it's the seller. Now, in our world, the address is always where things basically end up for filing purposes. So I'm going to put 1234 Main Street in Waukesha, Wisconsin 53186. Now the price, you may not know. You could put 0 for now. It doesn't really matter. Let's just say $250. And then I don't have to put any of these other dates in here because, for one, I don't know him, and it's not important. The red stuff is just required. So, let's say I know that on the list side I'm going to get 3.5%. I'm just going to hit next, and now you got to find a seller. So I always go back to Monica as my, because she loves getting my emails every time I train, and so we're just going to put her as our seller. You could add more people later, and then we're going to go to our listing tab, right? It could be vacant land, it could be condo, but we're just going to do a general listing checklist. So what does that do? It actually creates that listing checklist. Now, this is all the pre-listing stuff, okay? Remember in part 1, we talked about sending a seller questionnaire to them, you filling out a questionnaire on the things you're going to ask them. Now it's time to get them involved, okay? People want some action. Even if the listing is a couple weeks away, and maybe you've got photos, let's say next week, they want to start getting stuff, right? They're excited to go. But whenever you deem it appropriate, the property information sheet is something that we can start sending them right away. I'm going to hit use form. It's going to bring up the property info sheet. I can add to it if I want to, but I'm going to get this going on their end. I want to have them fill this out. I can help here a little bit. I can, strike out, let's say the village and the town. I can add the tax key. Those are the red things that matter. But the yellows, those are the things that they're going to have to fill out, okay? We do put in an initial just so there's something for them to do when they're done. Now, I think one of the things I might want to update in this down the road is adding that I am providing this information to my real estate agent solely on behalf of information available to me, and this is to the best of my knowledge, something like that. Because, we can then say, well, they signed it, they initialed it, that's what we put out to MLS. Remember, we live in a litigious society, right? Things like square footage. You need to understand that if you don't know the square footage of something, you got to look. You cannot rely on the previous listing. I'm going to give an example. If I go to assessordata.com, let's just select Waukesha County, okay? And I'm going to pick my municipality, let's just say town of Brookfield, right? When I got to come up with an address. Well, I think you get the idea. We don't need to put an address in here. This is a great tool for you to use to verify square footage. That's what is funneled when municipalities don't, they don't put it in there, we got to verify it. Like if I go to MLS and I look at my listings, and I got a really good one for you as an example. This is my listing on 101st Street in Dallas, and you can see that the square footage is 1130, 750. So where did I come up with that? Well, one of the things you're going to want to do is go to City of West Dallas property information. You can always Google it. And then I'm going to go into this. Now, I'm not going to walk you through all of this, okay? But this is where you start, okay? So you can do a property search here, property record card. They make it actually really easy here. So 101st, it pops up, and then I get the property record card. By the way, you should be doing this before you even go to the place that you're going to, okay? But I'm not going to walk you through it. Every community is a little bit different. Do your research, ask the seller about things, because you're going to want to delineate that square footage. Now, some agents will say, well, there's no egress down there. There's no bedroom. I can't use it as square footage, and that's simply not the case. Some agents might say, well, yeah, I mean, there's some concrete walls. Then they did, 2 drywalled walls and the ceiling was just like painted, the joists were painted black. Is that considered finished? Well, I think so. Because, you know, there are condos in a lot of cities, including in Milwaukee, where they have solid block walls. I mean, not many, but there's some on, well, it's right off, is it Commerce Street, I think? So there's a lot of, you know, you just, as long as you can justify it, you talk about it, you're good to go. Now, I will say that one of the things I have in every one of my listings is an agent instruction sheet, property info, stellar condition, lead-based paint if it applies, and then listing contract and delayed form. Remember, listing contract is only your listing contract. It is not our addendum. They do not want to see that. Delayed form is required if you're obviously in a delayed status. So I'm going to fill this out just on the top. You know, I can put County of Waukesha, and I can put the tax key for them, and then I send it, right? Just send for signature. So I'm just going to hit save and close because I don't need to do anything else with that now. As you go through, you're going to start filling this stuff out, and you can see that it changes from used forms to uploaded, right? So you get them going. We're going to go through the addendum only. Well, maybe we'll do both. So let me just bring this in. Get rid of this. I'm just doing this really quickly. Our listing contract addendum is required for every single listing that we have, regardless of property type. It has so much that is cover your ass type of material, and so we need to just make sure that we're all on the same page with our clients. So in this case, professional fees. What are you going to do? Are you going to offer compensation? Are you not? I don't care if they do. I don't care if they don't. MLS information and rules. We got to follow the rules. For sale signs, in bold here, it's, you know, they're acknowledging, hey, prior to us having the sign installed, you agree to mark some places that might interfere with that, such as irrigation lines and all this other stuff, right? We have to be really kind of careful with those, and it's just something that we take for granted. But guess who's going to be responsible? Us. So things you got to ask and talk about. Advertising, they can advertise it, but we need them to say, hey, it's for sale by or listed by RE/MAX Service First, your name or the office number at the minimum. And then there's some other stuff in here, right? So what is MLS? What are inspections? What's the difference between inspections and testing, radon and radon testing? These are things you should be talking about with your seller. I would highly recommend, like even a Zoom call. Most of you through RE/MAX get a free Zoom account. You can do up to 45 minutes meetings for free. And then just save them, right? You can download them, you can save them. Eventually they fall out of your Zoom thing. Remember, we are in a world of what? Transparency, and we are litigious, meaning we sue. So the more that you can save, the better off you're going to be, okay? Lead-based paint, equal opportunity. We don't give legal advice. Utilities, cables, attributes, or facilities. I mean, we're just going to do the best we can, right? Like, I mean, the title company will get the final meter readings and all that stuff. You got to help us along the way. Your community and your situation might be a little bit different as a seller. Like if you have to order your waste removal and you get a choice, some communities allow you to do that. It's not in your taxes. Property maintenance. We tell them, you have to maintain the property through listing, especially with cutting the grass and especially with removing snow. If we hire contractors, or if you hire contractors, we're not giving you the blessing. You've got to do your own research on that. Home warranty coverage. I see a little gap there. Weird.
Oh, that is.
Home warranty, up to you. We explain it to them. They make the choice. Fixtures, what are considered fixtures? And we try to make it a little more, you know, modern, like Nest thermostats, things like that. Wireless security systems, even like wireless speakers. You should know going in, and especially as you're doing your final walkthrough before listing, what's included, what isn't, okay? Hazardous substance or materials, they got to get rid of all that crap. We are going to use some third-party providers. I see home warranty is in there twice. We got to update this form. Title insurance financing, professional fees, buyer's incentives. I mean, that's up to you, right? That's up to them, rather. I'm just going to go very quickly through the listing contract, just some things that are kind of important. Once I get to the next one, there it is, use form. Okay, nope. Listing agent, I guess they're going to make me put me. All right, so just a couple quick things. Remember, town, village, or city, actual address, what's included, what isn't. You do need to obviously start with a price. Marketing. This is where you get to put anything specific that you agreed to. If I was hiring an agent and they agreed to put an ad in the newspaper, I would want that in there. And then I'd want to see a copy of it, right? Not that they're just saying that they are to hook me into getting listings or getting my listing. And then this is where the compensation goes. So you can do an offer of compensation, it would be here. Or you could say, no, we're not going to do that. Or, you know, and again, you don't have to get wordy on this. You're either offering it or you don't. If you're not, it's just none. You have to remind them, though, as the listing agent, that more than likely they should expect an offer with a 2.4% offer of compensation to the buyer's firm. Okay, don't tell them, yep, I'm going to do your listing for 3%. Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. That's a great deal. And then all of a sudden they get all these offers with, 2.4% attached to it. Commission. This is our commission. 3.5%, 3.6%, whatever you decide to do, plus $5.95. Now that admin fee is already in the addendum, but you can put it here too. Compensation to others. This is where we talk about it in the listing contracts. You don't have to worry about that. Fair housing, we don't ever check for sex offenders. We don't check the registry. We don't look around. That's their job, and it's the buyer's job. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead. This is a very confusing part, so I'm just going to cover this in a little bit of detail. When you're doing the paperwork, there's only one of these as it relates to multiple representation relationships between the clients and the firm. Remember, these people are only customers at this point. Now they're becoming clients. That means we have a fiduciary responsibility to them. And we have to do what we need to do as professionals to give them the best offer with the best terms. Okay? Number one, this is how I explain it to people. We're going to ask you to sign one of these. Almost always it's going to be the middle one. Number one, the same firm may represent me in the other party as long as the same agent is not representing us both. Here's the scenario. Somebody calls, wants to see the home. Listing agent wouldn't take that referral. It would have to go to somebody else in the firm. They could sign a buyer agency with that buyer, and then now two agents are with RE/MAX Service First. Okay? That's specifically the firm. Number two is, yeah, the same agent can represent us both, but they have to stay neutral. Now that representation means buyer agency and a listing contract. It doesn't mean that you can't show it. It doesn't mean that you can show it. It doesn't mean that, you're working for a buyer who just comes in. One of the most irritating things that I ever experience is when an agent does not have a buyer agency agreement. They write an offer. That offer to purchase comes in that they are an agent of the seller because they don't have a buyer agency. I call them and I say, hey, I see you're on our team. What do you mean? You're representing the seller. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm representing the buyer. Do you have a buyer agency with this buyer? No. Then you're representing the seller. No, I'm not. And I just get into this circular argument because they don't understand it. It's really very simple. You either represent the buyer or you represent the seller or you represent both. Okay? It's very, very, very simple. And it's not any more complicated than that. And then the last one would be, hey, my firm can't even represent you. In other words, I was selling 108 acres of land in Germantown that now is a subdivision years ago for about $1.2 million or something. And I had 4 siblings. And one of them, when we went to meet on a Saturday morning to sign all the paperwork, they said, well, my attorney told me that I should do the last one. And I said, is your attorney a real estate attorney? And she goes, well, I don't think so. And I said, well, you might want to ask a real estate attorney because here's the thing. If I have a buyer that comes to me, I can't represent them, which is fine. Doesn't matter to me, but I got to refer them to another firm. and how they're going to come in and negotiate against you. I do give incentives for people that, you know, if a buyer comes to me directly, you know, maybe I have a 6% listing. Now, these are in kind of the old days. If I don't have to offer a co-broke, I'll give them a break. I'll give them a percent or so off. That's just me. You guys can do what you want, but you're entitled to the entire compensation. But this would mean that we'd have to turn people away, and I don't like that idea. Confidential information, you know, sometimes people go, oh, we're going through a divorce. We don't want people to know. You can list it there. I always tell people if you're going to do this, though, you should probably just, you know, wait to file. And then definitions and such. So anyway, I just wanted to fly through that super quickly. All right, let's go into MLS. So once you're in MLS, where is my MLS at? So once you're in MLS, you are going to add a listing through your menu. And I don't add listings, so mine's not even on my thing there, my short thing. What do you call that, the menu? Yeah, the menu on top. So I'm going to type in my name, and I'm going to go to next. You guys have done this before, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just say West Main Street. It might not even be accurate. Main Street. Remember the abbreviations count. Oops, sorry. Is this how often I don't do this? Monica's laughing at me right away. Holy cow. What is this? Big postal direction. Monica's, maybe you should do your own listing once in a while. Answer's no. So 53186, I'm just trying to fly past this just to get to some other screens. Let's just say it's WK 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We hit next because those are free fields. I'm just going to say submit without geocode, and that's going to get us to where we're at. So you can do delayed or active. It's got to be one of the two. List price, you know, 300,100. Floodplain, yes or no. Taxes, 32.97. Tax year 25. By the way, don't be lazy. Don't look on wire data attached to the previous listing. Get the actual 2025 if it's 2026. Okay? It's come December 10th, everybody knows their taxes that they're paying because we pay taxes in arrears, meaning we pay for our taxes in reverse. So the year is ending, we're paying the taxes for that year. Estimated acreage. This is where it may differ, right? Let's just say 0.33. Source, we always want to put the seller. Now, if you don't know zoning, just put RES, but sometimes, and especially if you're looking it up in, like I'll give you an example. When I go to the city of Waukesha property information, I love their site. So I go into assessor's office. Sam and I have become friends. I like working with him, but we go to property record cards, and then I'm just going to do one of my old addresses, 725 Grandview. Kind of waiting for it to pop up, but I don't see it popping up. Huh. Okay. Well, let's just stick with what we got here, I guess. No, you will use this only. Here's your zoning, RS1. Put that in there if you know it, okay? Put that in there if you know it. So we go back to add our listing. So I'm going to do RS1, listing date. You can click on the, you know, like we're going to go live on this day, and then, you know, maybe it's, I mean, we try never to do anything less than a 6-month contract, especially if you're giving discounts. Concession, yes. You can't put anything else there, though. This is where I disagree with MLS, and I hope to God it changes. A concession is we're going to give you $5,000 to be used for carpeting, okay? Or towards closing costs, whatever, it doesn't matter. Named prospects, if you are taking a listing over from somebody else that, you know, that had what is it? The letter that we give sellers, protected buyer's letter, okay? Then you have to put yes here. Okay, name prospect, yes. That tells others that they might not be dealing with you. It depends, okay? And we put everything else in there, year built and whatnot. I'm just going to go through, again, total square footage could be 1,800 per the seller. Above grade might be 1,350 per the seller. Below grade would be 450, right, per the seller. I never really do unfinished unless the whole basement, like if you have a basement that's massive and there's 2,900 square feet down there because it matches the square footage above, that's what that's for, okay?
And just note, anything in red is required. You have to have something in that field.
Anything is required that's in red. So directions, do the best you can. You do have to put directions, I think. I mean, it's not in red, but, it does help. Sometimes we're in a spot where the internet and Wi-Fi doesn't work, right, no matter where we are, especially in parts of Waukesha on the southwest side of the city. So public remarks. I have a whole, thing set up in ChatGPT just to help me with descriptions. So write your description, throw it in there, take the old one, throw it in there, but you've got to verify it, okay? But, that's what ChatGPT is for. It's to help you research and to polish it up, and, you got to give the prompts, right? Make it in a convincing manner, whatever you decide to use. Inclusions, exclusions, this is where you get into particular. Not just washer, dryer, right? Like I've got in one of my listings where it's the LG washer and the LG dryer because there's two sets there, okay? Technically speaking, you do not have to put water softener, iron filter. Those are permanently attached to the home, but I would definitely do it if I were you, okay? More importantly, water softening system, and then I just put rented. You don't have to do that, but you should, okay? You go into details. I'm just going to go through a couple of these because I think there's some interesting things that come up during these. Like, if there's water front on the lot, that's easy, right? Because then you're going to be able to say, there's 50 feet of frontage. But if you don't, then you don't. Water access rights is a little bit different, okay? Separate quarters would be like a mother-in-law suite. Type of construction depends. It could be a manufactured or mobile home. Those are where kind of the unique properties start to get identified. What's your water feature? Well, maybe it's just, a pond. They have a large pond in the back. Absolutely. People are searching. You guys have to remember when you're listing a property, it's super important that you think like a buyer. Like if somebody came to you as an agent and said, I want something on water, I would ask, well, define that. Well, like a lake or even a river, but I don't want it like in a stream. Okay. What if you had like a really big pond in the place? Oh, yeah, I'd be open to that. Okay. If you don't check pond, those buyers aren't seeing this. Sidewalk. That could be any sidewalk on the property. A lot of times it's obviously, on the street. But if you have a sidewalk that goes to the front porch, I guess technically it's considered a sidewalk. You can wing that one, right? 1-story, 2-story, tri-level, 1.5. That's where you have like West Dallas bungalows where the ceilings are slanted. You don't have a full, 7-foot ceiling or whatever the requirement is. What are some other ones? If you were to check like a shared driveway, the very first thing that a buyer's agent would want to know is what the agreement is. So as you're doing these things, you should be, again, thinking about what is the other side going to think, right? What is the other side going to think? Now, not everything applies here. You might have an outbuilding that isn't quite what these are. All that applies, stubbed. There's no shower in it yet. It's a full basement. It's a partial basement, whatever. There's a walkout, poured concrete, 8+ ceilings so they can do whatever. There's a full-size window. There's at least one sump pump, okay? It's radon mitigation already installed, whatever, okay? You can jump in here too, Monica, if you think anything.
Okay.
Appliances, again, you've got water softener, washer, freezer, whatever. Don't skip this section for miscellaneous interior as well. Even little things might not seem like a big deal, but again, somebody might say, I don't want a home without a walk-in closet. And that could be a firm line there. You might not be able to connect with that buyer if you don't do it. Private shared well, same thing. Is there a shared well agreement? Okay. If it's a community shared well, I bought a home at 103rd and Villard, right by Timmerman Field. It was a duplex that was a short sale. Bank approved it. I got it, walked in, and had absolutely no idea that it didn't have municipal water. There's about 1,900 people on the Robert Park or something municipal or community water system. So you guys get the idea. Bedroom accessibility, these things are a real big deal. Laundry on the main level, bedrooms on the main level. That's what people want. Because again, if you're looking at an older buyer and they said, well, we want, we just can't do steps. And you say, okay, so could any bedroom on the main level work? Or, hey, we've got my mother-in-law that's staying with me. Her health isn't the greatest. So we want to buy a home that she could do it. It doesn't have to be separate quarters, but maybe it's a bedroom on the main level, right? The one thing I do wish is that somewhere in there, and it's a little bit tougher, because you get this request all the time. When you do a search, people will ask for, we'd like 4 bedrooms, but we can do 3 and a bonus room. That makes your searching a little bit tougher, okay? You absolutely should be, putting in your room dimensions, okay, as you go through. Those are really important. Any questions on the MLS entry? All right, so I'm going to take it kind of to the next level then, and I'm going to talk about what happens after the listing. Now, if you're in delayed, remember that's your time to market the snot out of this thing, okay? It's your time to go through and say, I'm putting this out there, coming soon, open house tomorrow. There's so many different things that you can post in all of our buy, sell, and our community groups. Now, a lot of these buy, sell groups are run by realtors, and you can tell when you go back and post your next one that it was never approved. Because if you look up on the top, it'll say 6 pending approvals. Then you want to send a message to that agent, tell them how pathetic they are, which is what I like to do. I haven't done that in a long time, but I'm going to do it at some point. All right, so let me reshare my screen here. And I'm going to go back to my listing checklist, okay? It speaks to what to create in back office. There is a form called All About You, which I think you should do. It really connects with your folks. That is available in the BoldTrail library. So remember that in the library we do have a lot of different things. So you could put, add task, all about you. I misspelled that, but it doesn't matter. You get my point. And I'm going to make sure that there is a document attached here. So I'm going to go to Use Forms. I'm going to select the form. Where would it be? General, do you think?
Yeah. Actually, it might be in the seller folder, sorry.
There it is. So the All About You form is one that we created a while ago. I'll just add Monica to it. And it just is something that they can fill out. Now, I don't do this up front. They've got to commit to me first. I want to know their name, birth date, where they work, home address, some fun facts about them, where they went to college, hometown. Do you have a better half? Do you have children? Blah, 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 blah. And they may not fill all of this out. That's fine. Their favorite food, favorite candy or treats, snacks, sodas, coffee brand, restaurant, blah, blah, blah. This is where you're going to, if you give gifts at closing, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, especially if I give a discount because that's their gift. But I will You know, I might have like dark chocolate and open a bottle of wine at closing. You know, whatever. And by the way, if you're going to do this, you have to be creative. This is when you should be doing it, or you should be doing it at their pre-signing. Because I have everybody pre-signed. Nobody ever goes physically to closing if I can help it. So there's that form, so I just wanted to introduce that to you.
Have you talked about if there's more than one seller, how you should select seller one as the person that would probably fill out condition report or any things that you would send over to them?
I didn't, but that's a good idea. You know, there's always kind of the alpha in everybody's relationship, but you know, like for me, I mean, I do a lot of things. My wife does other things, and if it came to filling out paperwork, I'd probably be the one doing it, as opposed to her. So anyway, just something to think about. But photos. So your photos are going to come in. You'll get those ready. Well, I'm sorry, you already had those by the time we're talking now. And then you're going to go live in MLS. So let's take it from there. If I go back into the front office, if you will, I'm going to go to My Listings. And this is where you're going to be able to find out. I've got a couple listings here. Some of them are older. But if I wanted to create assets or view assets, this is where it's going to give me any and everything that's been created. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my listing. I'm going to hit Create Assets. We're just going to do something quick here. So I'm going to go Default, and then I'm going to Create Assets. Now you could create your own in Design Center. I'm not going to do that for right now. All right. So it's down at the bottom. It prompted me that it's working on it. Okay. But I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to show you some of the things you have available to you. Notice we did some open houses here. Those are listed in red. But this is also the website that's automatically created for you. So if I click on this, I'm going to open it up in a new tab. This website has already been created for me. So if you're paying just a photographer to do photos, you're not using like a landing page like I do, you can funnel people through this, and it's a really nice one, page thing. And what you do is you take this, right, and you go into Facebook. Let me go into another Facebook page because I'm following this guy. I love this guy. If I go to, let's say, Mukwonago, area news and whatever, I can click into this, and I can go to write something, and I can bring this up. So now you've got this automatically created page for you. So the advantage to using your BoldTrail site is that people might come to you and they might start searching and registering on your site. When I use Shutterzone, they can't do that. They can contact me. But what I like about Shutterzone is the back-end analytics, okay? When I advertise out in the wild, so to speak, I could use either or. But in this case, it's not going to give me the analytics. I don't get that. I'm going to Charleston to their conference in a couple weeks, and I'm going to ask them about that, and I'm going to ask about analytics because that's something that's really important. Now, you could do a property boost. That's a paid service, okay? I've tried to boost a couple things. I didn't really get much from it, so I haven't really gone that far. But here's where you could add a virtual tour link, open house link, a video link. You could do your own video, and you could have it on a YouTube channel that you own. That's yours. That's smart, right? Do a selfie. I'm walking through my new listing at 1248 River Park in Mukwonago, and boy, I really like the privacy of this. Whatever, you got that all through, right? You can enhance the description by adding more to it. Remember, MLS gives you 800 characters. Here, you can do more. Matching buyers would be in your database. So if I clicked on that, I could look at the matching buyers that I have in my system, and there's only 3, and I could send them an email. I could send them a mass text, right? So if I send them a mass email about it, it'll bring up the email, and then I can customize it. Hey, looks like this might meet your parameters. Pretty cool stuff. So, get to know the tools that you have. And then, by the way, you can also send this to one of your clients, or you could also send it to your clients, the selling clients, right? That'd be a good thing to do. Here, virtual tour, it takes me outside to my Shutterzone. But I've got it all there, right? Why? Because that's part of the listing. If I zip through here, I can kind of see what the property is, and you can do it right through that link, which is pretty cool. So there is a capability to get the best of both worlds. I could try to get listings through my BoldTrail property page, and most people are going to click on virtual tour, so I get the analytics on the back end. I get the best of both, sorry. All right, let's go back to my checklist. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to go into MLS again. I want to show you guys some things. So in MLS, there are some tools that you have available to you. Now, you have to find it, but if you go into, where is it? Oh, sorry, I'm already in it. No, let me go to my listings. I'm going to leave, so I'm not going to save any of that stuff, even though it kind of auto-saves. But if I go into this listing, there are some things here, right? I've got report, history, tax info, monsoon, which is kind of it's actually pretty cool. It's an enhanced way to get tax information and whatnot. I can go to more, and we get to trust funds. We can search comparables. Big deal, right? There's also some other things you can do. You can jump to a different listing. You can search some details, go to a line showings from there. What I am looking for, though, is I'm looking for how I can send my people this listing. So I have to go to change, and I go into 1248 River Park Circle East. And now up on the top, you see activity. So this is what's happened so far, right? Now I want to show you how I do this, because I'm going to do this, I'm going to set this up for them. My contacts are, I have to do that later. Basically what you do in here is you can do a couple things. You can send this via email to any one of your clients, but you can do it either through a contact if their name is in there, or you can add it or just manually enter it. And then I have templates for everything I do, okay? So I have templates set up for all of these things. They're very easy to set up. You can add a new one at any time. You just go to options, and then you can update, you can rename one, you can save a new one. So you could put your listing MLS activity. You can save that as new. I'm not going to put anything in there now just for the sake of this instruction. And then it's there, right? But the cool part is that, let me get out of this. You could also set up auto emails. I have to enter them in as contacts, but let me just pick this guy here. I can do it weekly every Monday, which is what I like setting up. And I can also send it to me. If you send it to you, you're going to get it every Monday, and you know that it went out, but then you can forward it to your clients and say, hey, I just want to let you know what this means. It looks like we're a little light on showings. I'd like to see a little bit more. Maybe midweek, we can talk about a strategy going into the weekend or whatever you want to do, okay? There is that option for you. The other one is if you use Shutterzone like I do, and I'm going to have to log in here because I didn't think to do it earlier. If you log into Shutterzone and you go to your dashboard, let's just pick an old listing. Let's pick this one. I had 762 all-time views. But you can go and subscribe these people as well. I can put, seller to, and then their email address, and then maybe they get this thing on Thursday. Why am I doing that? I want to offset, I want them getting things throughout the week from me. I want them understanding, you know, this, hey, this is what John's doing behind the scenes. My largest all-time views was over 12,000, all right? So there's ways that you can do those things behind the scenes. I think the most important one, like if I go back to, let's just type in Waukesha County. Let's just do this. So I can do any listing in Waukesha County on this Waukesha County buy-sell trade page. And I'm not going to do this because I just don't have time. But if you buy and sell, it depends on how they set this thing up. Now I can say, you know, for sale, blah, 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 right? I have marketing templates set up. The marketing templates are already designed. Remember, anything that you put out has to have your name, your firm name, and the firm's phone number at the minimum, okay? So you have to be able, you know, you have to do that, otherwise MLS can fine you, all right? So, you know, these are important. And usually on the bottom here, you can see who owns this page. Like if I go back to McGuanago buy, sell, I think this is probably going to be the one. See here, it says 4 posts. This admin never approved it. So if I really wanted to, I could go in and I could find out who the admin is, and I could say, hey, what the hell, right? This is ridiculous. Why aren't you letting me post? So there's a lot of these, you know, as you go through. What county do you live in? I live in Waukesha County. Try to join as many of these as you can. I think I'm in probably. Here, I'll put McGuanago. They never check this stuff anyway. I'm probably in over 220 of these, I would guess. You know, so as you go through, it depends on, you know, when you're doing stuff. You know, like McGuanago Information and News. I'm going to join that group. Now, I have a couple different purposes for this. You know, I'm running a sheriff campaign, so I want to be a part of all of these as much as I can. But in the meantime, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to, you know, post this. Now, I'm not going to post a new listing in McGuanago Area Online Moms Group because then I'll probably get kicked out, right? So, you know, join as many as you can where you do the business, most likely around you. And, you know, I don't see it, but sometimes it'll say monitored or created by so-and-so, and then you look up whether or not they're a realtor and go from there. So, that is marketing. I do want to go back just for a second into what happens when we get offers. So when an offer comes in, and by the way, let me go into my, let me just stop sharing my screen here for 2 seconds. I want to bring up, actually, let me do this first. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted to find. So let me reshare my screen. In your Agent Resources folder, in CMA Resources, you have a folder that says Listing Examples. This is an example of the listing agent instructions that you can use, okay? This is what I put in. Do you mind giving me my charger? Sorry.
No, no problem.
This is where you can personalize your property, your information. This is where the address would go, 1234 Main Street, you know, Waukesha, whatever. And this is what is going to go in MLS. This is the agent's, the buyer's agent's instructions. This is like, if you want to get an accepted offer, here's what you should do, okay? So there's that one. Back to this. Marketing narratives. This is what I was referring to earlier. This is what I use every single time I make a post online. So I do not forget to put the link in for Shutterzone or the Remax link, whatever it is, and then I always have this information down on the bottom, okay? That's just, you know, just what I do, every single one. And then this is what I send to sellers after we get listed. So it goes through any and everything to expect. It doesn't replace me having conversations with them about, Monica, I have it actually, I'm sorry. Now that I think about it. So it doesn't replace having those conversations. What it does, no. What it does is it allows me to at least, you know, say, hey, let's talk about showings. But I tell them, I've got a really detailed instruction sheet. Once we go live, I'm going to send to you. It'll have everything in there. So, and it does. What to expect, all the key dates that are in here, showings, we're going to cut them off at 7 o'clock. I usually do the last day of showings, especially if I'm expecting a lot of activity. We cut them off at 3 o'clock on Sunday. So the last possible showing time is 3. So by 4 o'clock, they can at least get back in their home and catch a breather, right? This is fair housing. This is the link to, again, either the Remax one or Shutterzone, okay? So, you know, these are all tools that I've created for you guys to help you along the way as you market your properties. Now let's go back into what happens when you get an offer. Now I did this in a separate video, I believe, right? I think I did. And we talked about it at a recent sales meeting. But when you get an offer, you're going to add a blank checklist. So it's an offer. And then I'm going to rename it. And I always do the same thing. I'll say offer to purchase, number 1. I'll put the date, let's say, 5/10 of 26. And then I do the buyer's last name, Yunke or whatever, right? Assigned to me, and there it is. Now, I have to do something with it, right? I have to add my documents. So I'm going to go up here to add via email. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to send them in there. Now, remember, they go into unsorted documents. So you'll find them here, and then you can assign them to these checklists. It'll ask you. Why did it edit task? I'll put this here. So it's pretty simple, but you're going to have multiple checklists more than likely, because in our world today, we're getting multiple offers, okay? And then I think I told you guys this, but for me, let me just bring up my spreadsheet. I mean, this is the spreadsheet that I use. Go back and share my screen here. So this is the spreadsheet that I use with multiple offers. And I went through this already. I'm not going to take the time to go through it again, but without showing any sensitive information such as buyers, I've got everything available here. And then unfortunately, I have to manually do this, right? But it's a really, really great tool for any and everybody with multiple offers. And then I've highlighted these things on what I think are, cautionary items. Like, I don't think it will appraise. Here is somebody who was dumb enough to ask for post-occupancy payment from the seller to the buyer for like 2 weeks, and then nobody else really did it, right? Because you can see as you go through, it's all free. And then red are things that I don't like that we need to talk about. All this is just a way to organize what's happening and to create discussions, okay? At the end of the day, I think you have to use whatever system is best for you. But I'm going to, I'm going to continue to use what works best in my world, knowing full well that, like I said, I've got a lot of tools available to me, for sure. So I'm going to go back to, you've got everything that's sold. I'm going to take you just through closing real quick if you go to the end of your checklist. By the way, if you expire a listing, which does still happen today, the most important part is this part right here. Within 3 days of being notified that the seller's done, you need to put together a list of protected buyers. Now, that's a little more difficult these days because buyers aren't necessarily registered with their agents. And you cannot put a buyer shown the property by agent Jenna Walters. That doesn't work that way, okay? This is the only way you can protect yourself if another buyer comes back and purchases the property. Otherwise, you're screwed. So go through there, some open house information, things to consider, very good read there. But when it comes down to closing it, unless you have a transaction coordinator, this is what you do. It's just step by step, okay? You've got the MLS tasks that you need to do. Now, you have to be a little mindful of the fact that when somebody else sells your listing, a lot of times they'll give the team the credit and not the individual. So then they'll tell you, hey, when you close this out, can you close it under, the ABC team, not agent Jenna Walters? Like, yep, okay, that's fine. Enter the sold date and sold price, transaction type, pending date. I put in here, there's a very important date. Remember, the pending date is the date that you accepted the offer. It's not the day you put it in pending status. That's really important because you don't want it to show that it was on the market for 25 days because, I've looked up agent statistics and I'll say, well, usually you're getting offers accepted within 3 days. It looks like they're at about 50 or 25. And I use it against them. So we can easily do that against you if you don't understand how that works. So in this checklist, there's an explanation of what it's for.
What's the difference between a pending status and under contract in MLS?
The pending status versus contingency status, during the contingency status, the property still has to be available to show. So in other words, you list a home on a Thursday, Monday you have an accepted offer on it, a showing request comes in on Tuesday, and you're only in a contingency status, technically the sellers have to show it. Now they're going to ask you, hey, what's going on with this thing? If they don't want it to be shown, it has to be in a pending. I don't generally put it in a pending status until we get through at least some contingencies. Okay, so something to think about. In-house tasks. So, you got to change the status, the sold. I mean, there's a couple of things here that I'm not going to go through. And then consider, what am I going to do with this thing afterwards? What do I want to do? What does my budget allow me to do? Do I put out postcards in a subdivision that, let's say like my own, with really nice price points and price points that allow somebody to put aside some money to do maybe $300-400 of campaigns, postcards through Every Door Direct or whatever, and then to be able to put into, hey, sold within 2 days at $25,000 above asking price. Well, it could have meant that you were just not good at, your offer price, that you were low, but you could use those things for marketing. So there's a lot of kind of cool things that you can do within your stuff. You can also boost a property once it's sold too. So last thing I want to do is I just want to go back to one thing. Let me see. I requested some assets. Where did we go to find those? Marketing? No. Go back to my listings here for a second. I just want to see. Any questions from those? Yeah, so those assets aren't built yet. Oh, yeah, they are. Let me reshare my screen. So earlier I showed you what, holy cow, we requested that assets get created, and here's what they created for my listing. So, I mean, not a lot, but, you know, some things here. Could be a flyer. I could click on it and see what it looks like, right? Where is it? Maybe I have to edit it. And by the way, you have full control over these things, so it's pretty cool. And you're not doing anything. But just listed, these could be put out in the property. You could do it as a team listing instead. So you can play around with this. You know, well, look at that. Give credit to the Alex Siegel Goldman Group. Right. I don't know how that happened. Oh, there we go. So, you know, you have a lot of flexibility in what you can do with those things. But remember, when it sells or when it goes under contract or you have open houses, it will create those for you too. All right, any questions from those of you guys who are paying attention live? All right, that is what we have for you today. Sorry, I was responding to a text message there. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Let us know if it doesn't. If there's anything else you guys need, let us know. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.